crochet tutorial. For this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make this honeycomb blanket design that I've come up with. So yeah, this is a fairly large project, especially if you're going to make it the size that I've made it, which is 90 hexagons. So it's a 9 by 10 blanket. Aside from that, once you get used to the repetitions, it's very, very easy to make. So yes, that's what we're doing. There's actually not a lot that I need to say about it. We can probably definitely just get straight into making it. However, if you haven't subscribed but you would like to subscribe to join me for some more tutorials, I would love to have you join me. A big thank you to my patrons. Thank you for your support. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching my videos. If you need to get in contact with me for anything, I'll be leaving all my relevant links for places that you can find me in the description below. So yes, there's that. Other than that, I think we can probably definitely just get straight into making this. Alright, now to begin, we're going to have a quick look at the tiny details on the label of the yarn that we're using. So all of these yarns are exactly the same, and I'm going to be starting with the brown. So here's the label for that. If you need more time to look at anything, just pause the video. I also just want to mention quickly as well that if at any point during the tutorial you feel like I'm going too fast, there's a feature on YouTube where you can slow down the speed of the video. So I just always suggest doing that so that you can keep up at your own pace. Alright, so here are the tiny relevant details. And what it's telling me here is that I should be using a 4.5mm hook, but I'm not going to. For this, I'm going to be using a 5. Just because the yarn is worsted, so I always feel like a 5mm hook is really good for a worsted yarn, worsted weight. Alright, let's begin. So, to begin, what we're going to do is we're going to find the end of our yarn. It's going to be here somewhere. Here we go. Alright, so finding the end of our yarn, what we're going to do is take the very end between the thumb and the index finger of your right hand, like this. Then, with your index finger and your middle finger of your left hand, you're going to come... Let's focus better. With the index finger and the middle finger of your left hand, you're going to come in behind the yarn, just like this. You're going to wind that working end around, grab hold, pull through a loop. But see, I don't want to make the tail end of this slip knot very, very long, because I want to crochet the end in as I go along. Also, because I want to make sure that I've definitely got enough yarn to make all 18 hexagons that I want to get out of these 3 skeins of yarn. So yes, we're going to make a small tail end each time we do a slip knot, and then we're going to adjust, make sure you've got a little room just there to shove your hook through that knot, grab that working end and pull tight. So there we go, we've got our slip knot. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a chain of 4. And to make a chain stitch, you're going to yarn over, pull through a loop, that's 1 chain, yarn over, pull through, that's 2 chains, yarn over, pull through, that's 3 chains, yarn over, pull through, and that's 4 chains. Alright, now that we've got our chain of 4, what we're going to do is work our way back to the beginning of that chain, and we're going to slip stitch into that first chain right there at the beginning. So insert your hook like this, yarn over, pull through a loop, pull that loop through the last loop on your hook, just like that. And that's given us a small chain circle. So if you pull that apart, you can see that's where we're going to be putting our first round of stitches into the center of this chain circle. So what we're going to do now is chain up 2, 1 and 2. For the first round, we're going to be putting 12 double crochets into the center of the chain circle. But between every 2 stitches, there's going to be a chain of 1. So that's going to help us create 6 sides and 6 corners of the hexagon. So also this chain of 2 is going to be falling, and each chain of 2 for every round is going to be falling between the first side. So the first stitch of this round and the 12th stitch of this round are going to be the first and the last stitch of the first side. So you'll see what we mean when we get to it. We'll talk about it once it's done. So for the first stitch, we're going to be putting a double crochet into the center of that chain circle. And to do that, what we do is we yarn over, stick your hook into the center of the chain circle, just like this, yarn over, at the back just there, yarn over, pull a loop through the chain circle, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. There we go. So that's the last stitch of the first side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create our first corner, and to do that we're going to chain 1. And now we're going to be putting stitches 2 and 3 into the center of the chain circle. So where are we? Oh. Try to keep the hook in the stitch. So 2 and 3 into the center of that chain circle. 2, and that might have been too big. I'm not having a good time, am I? 2 and 3, just there like that. All right, so now to create the next corner, corner number 2, we're going to chain 1, and as you can see, I'm working that loose end in as I go along. And now we're going to put stitches 4 and 5 into the center of the chain circle. 4 and 5. Now we're going to chain 1 for the next corner, put in stitches 6 and 7 into the center of the chain circle. Create another corner and put in stitches 8 and 9 into the center of the chain circle. Create the next corner, which I think is a 5th corner, and put in stitches 10 and 11 into the center of the chain circle, just like that. And then we're going to create our final corner, the 6th corner, by chaining 1, and we're going to put our 12th stitch into the center of the chain circle, just like that. And there's round 1. So now what we're going to do to close the round is we're going to look for that stitch above that chain of 2 just there at the beginning. So there's that chain of 2. Let's just focus better. Alright, so there's the chain of 2 from the beginning, and what you're going to do is you're going to stick your hook through that first stitch, yarn over, pull through a loop, pull that loop through the last stitch on your hook, pull tight. And there's round 1. So what we're going to do for round 2 is we're going to chain up 2, so 1 and 2. And for this, well, for every round, what we're going to be doing is increasing by 2 stitches per side. So each round is going to have 12 extra stitches. So we're increasing by 12 stitches per round. So to do that, what we're going to do, and like I said, the chain of 2 is in the center of the first side. So we're going to be doing half of the first side by yarn over. You're going to put your first double crochet into that stitch right beneath that chain of 2 just there. So you're going to go into that first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, double crochet. Now for the final stitch of this side, what you're going to do is you're going to put your double crochet into that chain space of 1 just there. So you're going to go in, pull a loop around that chain, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. So there's your first double crochet. Now to continue creating the corner, what you're going to do is chain 1, just like the previous round. Always to create the corner, you're going to chain 1. So now to do the next side, working 4 stitches in, you're going to put another double crochet into that chain space of 1. So every time you need to do increases, it's going to be double crochet into the chain space of 1, chain 1, and another double crochet into the chain space of 1. Then you're going to work a double crochet into these 2 stitches just here for this side. So first stitch just here, double crochet, next stitch, double crochet. Then for the next increase, you're going to put your double crochet into the next chain space of 1. So as you can see, that's brought the stitch count of this side just here up to 4. So we've gone from 2 to 4. So now we're going to chain 1, put another double crochet into that chain space. So that's going to be the first of this next lot of 4 stitches along. Put a stitch into each of these 2 stitches along just here. And for the last stitch of this side, you're going to double crochet into that chain space of 1. So there we go. Now you're going to chain 1 to create that corner. So you see you've got 4 stitches along just there. So now your first one of the next side, you're going to double crochet into that chain space again, yarn over, a stitch into the next 2 stitches, and so on till you get to the end of the round. And you'll find that each side has 4 stitches, and there will be, of course, there's going to be 6 corners. So I'll meet you at the end and we'll have a look at what we've got. Alright, now here I am at the end of the round. I'm about to put in my 24th stitch, so that's going to be into that stitch just there, right at the end. There we go. So as you can see, each side now has 4 stitches with a peak or a corner between each. And the chain of 2 from the beginning falls between these 2 last stitches and the 2 first stitches. So what we're going to do now is, just like the previous round, we're going to find that stitch above the chain of 2 at the beginning just there. We're going to slip stitch into that to close the round. You can pull that stitch tight. Now what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to change color. And to do that, what I'm going to do is chain 1, so just like that. I'm going to find some scissors, and I don't want to cut a very long tail. I want this to be fairly short, just because obviously I'm going to be crocheting it as I go along still. But also, like I said, I think at the beginning I want to make sure there's enough yarn to do all 18 hexagons that I don't want to make with these colors. So yeah, we're cutting the yarn. Oh boy. Alright, so we're cutting the yarn. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to pull that through the chain of 1 that you did, pull tight, and just like that. So I'm going to put that to the side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook into that stitch that we would normally be going into beneath the chain of 2. So just there beneath that where we tied off. You're going to stick your hook through there. Just put your work down for a second. I'm going to be moving on to the golden colour next. What we're going to do is find the end of that, and once again we're going to make a slip knot, and again I don't want to make the tail of that too long, so I'm just going to make that very short. Now picking up the work again with the hook through that first stitch, you're going to adjust your hook while it's through the work. You're going to adjust your hook to that new slip knot, pull the knot through and pull tight, making sure that loose end is to the back just there. Now I'm going to make sure both of these loose ends are sort of pulled to the left side just there, so that I can crochet them both in as I go along. And what we're going to do for this next round is we're going to chain up 2 straight from that slip knot that we pulled through. So 1, 2, making sure that knot's right there at the back. And we're going to put a double crochet in beside that chain of 2 that we've just done, and that slip knot. So yarn over, go into that same stitch, double crochet, and remember we're increasing by 12 stitches again for this round. So what we're going to do, we're going to have, since we had 2 at the beginning just here before that first chain of 1 for the previous round, we're going to have 3 at the beginning here before the chain of 1 for this round. So you've got your first stitch that you've just put in here, then we're moving on to the next stitch along just here, double crochet. Now the third one is going to be into that chain space of 1. So the first and last stitch of each side is going to be the increased stitch into the chain of 1. So there's that double crochet. So you've got 3 just there at the beginning. Now you're going to chain 1 and put the first of the next side just here. So you're going to be increasing to 6 from 4 to 6. So your first one's going to be into that chain space of 1 just there. So chaining 1, double crochet again. Now your second stitch into that first stitch along for that from that previous 4 in the round beneath. So there's 2, 3, 4, next stitch along, 5, and then your 6th one is going to be into that chain space of 1, so the increased stitch. So just pulling that loose bit through to the back so there's no messy bits on the good side of the work. And so yeah, you're just going to be doing repetitions of that, but also obviously you'll be finishing the last half of this first side when you get to the end. So there's going to be 3 stitches to finish up the round just here, including the first one into that final chain space of 1. I hope that makes sense. So we'll do this again. So you're chaining 1, first of this next lot of 6 into that chain space of 1, then second stitch into that first of the previous 4, so that's 2 stitches, 2, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Chain 1 to create the corner. So there we go, and you're just going to do that all the way to the end, so you'll find that you'll have six lots of everything. Again, I'll meet you at the end and we'll finish up the... God, I can't talk properly. We'll finish up the round together. Alright, so here we are at the end of the round with a chain of 1 for the final corner, and our final 3 stitches, which are going to be the first 3 stitches on this side of the chain of 2 at the beginning. So we've got 1, 2, 3, chain of 2, 4, 5, 6, which is the first 3 stitches you did just there at the beginning of the round. Alright, so once again, to close the round, what we're going to do is find that stitch at the top of the chain 2 from the beginning just there. You're going to go in, slip stitch to close the round. So there's round 3. Now for round 4, we're going to chain up 2. And your first stitch is going to be into that stitch right there beneath that chain of 2. And because you had 3 stitches at the beginning of the previous round before that chain space of 1, you're going to have 4. Because once again, we're increasing by 2 stitches per side. So 1, 2, 3, and then your final stitch, that 4th one, is going to be into that chain space of 1 and 4. Now you've got a chain of 1 to create the corner, and you're going to have 8 stitches along, where on the previous round you had 6 just here on this side. So we'll do it together. So you've got your first stitch into that chain space of 1 again, so 1, then into the next stitch along, that's going to be stitch number 2, which was the first of that 6 from the previous round. So that's 2, then you've got 3 to the next stitch, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then for the 8th and final stitch of this side, you're going to go into that chain space of 1. So there's 8, and create the corner with a chain of 1. And moving on to the next side, you've got your first into that chain space of 1 again. Then next stitch along is going to be stitch number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and for that 8th stitch you're going into that chain space of 1, 8. Create the corner with a chain of 1. So you're going to be doing that. You'll have 6 lots of that all the way around. So 6 lots of 8 with a chain space of 1 between each. Obviously for the last, or for the end of the round, you'll have 4 stitches to complete the round before you slip stitch into the top of the chain 2 to close, to make up that first side. All right. So I'll meet you at the end of the round. We'll close up together and we'll talk about how to move on to round 5. All right, here I am at the end with my last chain of 1 for the last corner, putting in my last 4 stitches to make up the first of this first side, or the first part of this side. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there we go. All right, once again, slip stitching into that stitch above the chain of 2 from the beginning to close the round. And there is round 4. So as you can see, that's starting to look a lot more like a hexagon, which is good. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change yarns again. So again, I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to cut that yarn just like so. Just cut a small tail. Pull that thread through the chain of 1 that I did to pull tight or to secure it. I'm going to put my hook through that first stitch along just there, put that down. Moving on to the cream color that I've got. I don't know, looking at it, it's kind of very, very similar. Actually, it's not too bad. We'll see how it looks. I'm sure it's going to look good at the end. All right, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to make that slip knot just here with the cream colored yarn. Small tail. Adjust that knot to the hook and pull it through that first stitch along. Like so. Pull tight. Making sure both threads are pulled to the side so that you can weave them in as you go along, or crochet them in as you go along. Where are we? There we are. And straight from that slip knot that you've just pulled through that stitch, you're going to chain up 2. So 1 and 2. Alright, so from the previous round we had 4, didn't we? 4 on either side. Yep. So we began with 4. We're going to be increasing to 5 to start off with. So you're going to put your first double crochet into that same stitch that you put your slip knot and chain of 2 into. There's that first stitch. Then moving on, you're going to, that's stitch number 1, next stitch, stitch number 2, 3, stitch number 4, just there, 4. And then your 5th one, the final stitch of this side, on this side of the chain of 2, is going to be into that chain space of 1 just there for the increase. So double crochet into that chain space. Then to create the corner, we're going to chain the 1, put another double crochet into that chain space of 1. For the first stitch of the next, I think it's 10, we're going to be increasing to 10 per side for this round. So that's stitch number 1 of this side. Then into the next stitch along, that's going to be stitch number 2. Then we've got into the next one, 3, 4, working your way along, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and for that 10th one, it's going to be into that chain space of 1 for the increase. So that's how it's going, and then you're going to chain your chain of 1 to make the chain space of 1. Yeah, so it's going to be 10 stitches per side, with the first and the 10th being the increase stitches into the chain space of 1. So we've chained 1, we're going to put our first one in, but I don't need to stick with you for the rest of them, I don't think. I think you know what to do at this point. So obviously, when you get to the end, let's pull that ugly bit through, loose end. All right, so when you get to the end, you're going to have 5 on this side of this chain of 2 to complete the round. I'll meet back up with you at that point and we'll do it together, and we'll talk about how we're going to move on to round 6. All right, see you soon. Okay, here we are at the end of the round, chaining 1 for the final corner and putting in our last 5 stitches, which are the first 5 stitches of this side on this side of the chain of 2 from the beginning. So was that 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And just like the previous rounds, we're going to be slip stitching into that stitch at the top of the chain 2 just there to close the round. All right, pull that stitch tight. Now for round 6 and our final round, before I leave you to complete your own blanket, we're going to chain up 2, and yeah, we're just continuing the increases. So where we had 5 stitches to begin with before the chain of 1 at the beginning of the last round, we're going to have 6. So putting our first double crochet into that stitch right beneath that chain of 2, that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that 6th stitch into that chain space of 1, 6. Now chaining 1 for that corner, you're going to, okay, so yeah, now you're going to have 12 stitches for this side. Where you had 10 for the previous round, you're now going to have 12, with your first one being that first increase, or that second increase into that increase section. Stitch 2 into the first stitch along, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So your 12th one into that increased section. Chain space of 1. Chain 1, first of the next 12 on this side. Alright, so there's going to be 6 lots of those with, we'll meet back up at the end. We'll talk about how we're going to close up, and that will be it. Alright, so I'll see you at the end of the round. Alright, so here we are at the end of the round, chaining our final corner, chain 1, then putting in our last 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and your final stitch 6. So that's your last stitch, 6 stitches of the round, which is your first 6 stitches of this side on this side of the chain of 2. So now once again you're chaining, you're slip stitching into that stitch above the chain of 2 from the beginning of the round to close the round. And what you're going to do now is just chain 1, pull tight. So there we go, we've chained 1, and now what we're going to do is we're going to cut the yarn, but again not too much because I want to make sure I've got enough for all of my hexagons, and then we're just going to pull that through the last chain that we did, pull tight, and there we go, there is our hexagon. Wow, that's really pretty, those colors look so nice. Alright, so that's that, and then obviously I've got my other colors, so all together this is going to be what my blanket's going to consist of. Let's tilt the camera down slightly so we can see. Nice one. Yes, these are going to look good. Alright, yes, good. And to join, I'm going to use black yarn. Alright, so we'll all go away, we'll all complete the amount of hexagons that we need to make our separate blankets. For me, it's going to be, I think 90. What have we got? 5 lots of 18. So I think that works out to be 90. So there's going to be that. It's going to be a 10 by 9 hexagon blanket. All up, I'm not sure what the measurements are. If you want to know what the measurements of my blanket is going to be, you know where to find me. I think I'll have mentioned that in the beginning, hopefully. So yes, that's it. Alright, well, I don't know, I'll film some sort of outro to show you what the blanket looks like. Not sure what that's going to be at this point, but you know, we'll see. Alright, so we'll go away, we'll finish our blankets, we'll meet back up, and we'll see how they look. Alright, see you soon. Alrighty, here is the finished blanket. Yes. Yeah, so as you can see, it's been quite a large project for me at 90 hexagons. Yes. So for the time frame, because I did this over different time periods, but I think that if you consistently stuck with it, it would probably take about 2 weeks to make. And just with, if you're going to make this size. So yes, that's it. I do have some variations that I'd like to try with this particular design. But yeah, that's for a later date. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've made yourself a lovely blanket. I'd love to hear about it. Let me know. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.